Hello everybody and welcome back to Blockchain Won't Save the World. It's another Students React video, and this time we have students from Africa. They're going to take us through some of their favorite projects, talk about what they like, what they don't like, and we're going to hear from some of the future digital leaders of the African continent. Really excited to have them with us. Claire, let's start off with yourself. Please give us a quick introduction. Where are you from? Where are you studying? And let's get into your first example.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Clare Kanja, and I'm Kenyan, but I'm currently studying at the African Leadership University in Rwanda. And today I'll be talking about PharmaTrust, which is a company based in London. And before I get to what exactly they do, I'd just like to take you back a little bit back in time and think of the last time you were at a chemist or hospital or pharmacy. And I'd like you to imagine you having spent a lump sum amount on medication, because we all know how expensive medicine can be. And then 3 weeks down the line, you find that it's not had any impact on you, or worse, it's really affected you in a worse way than you were before. And this is an issue that's existing in the pharma industry, and it's one of the very critical ones. And it's an issue of counterfeit medicines that are at a high influx in the market. And when we talk about counterfeit medicines, it manifests itself in different ways. So there's one that we all know of is the fake products. So whereby you buy a syrup and it's probably 70% water, or tablets and it's plastic and it won't help you in any way. And there's also the issues of substandard medicines, or medicines that have been exposed to poor conditions, because some medicines actually require some degree of or temperature when they're being stored or being moved from one place to another. And the issue is so bad that the PwC estimates that it's a $700 billion business. And the impact in terms of health is that about 700,000 people, have died due to counterfeit malaria and TB drugs. So clearly it's a very big issue, and not just in Africa, but across the world. However, we see that the countries that are most vulnerable to this issue are the ones that mainly rely on imported medications, because it's really difficult to, track and see and regulate the medications that are actually coming into the country. And it's a very big issue. And we also know that the pharmaceutical supply chain is very complex. But just to break it down or give it a bit of context before I come into what PharmaTrust is doing, is I'll just give a bit of context around the supply chain, whereby we have, where it starts with the raw materials. So the companies that deal with the raw materials that are used to make the medicines. Then we go to the manufacturers. These are like the likes of GSK, Sanofi, AstraZeneca. Then we have logistics, those who actually figure out how it's getting from the manufacturers to the wholesalers. Then we have the wholesalers, the retailers, who are the pharmacies and the hospitals, and finally the patient. So it's a very diverse network. And when, as a patient, it would be really difficult to track where exactly in the supply chain the issue came about. So even though I've been exposed to fake medicines, and let's say I wanted to take legal action or sue, I would not know which party I should go to, because it's such a vast network. And now I'll just bring it into context and share what PharmaTrust does. And PharmaTrust is a company based in London, and it was founded in 2017. And their core business is to try and bring about an end-to-end transparency and visibility into the supply chain. And they do this by using technology such as blockchain and AI. And I'll touch a bit of both. And the first is blockchain. And we all know that blockchain is a distributed ledger, and it pegs on some very important principles of blockchain. And the first is the fact that it's immutable. So the historical records of how the products have moved from one section of the supply chain to the other cannot be changed. And if someone tries to change it or alter it, there'll be a response, and everyone else in the network will be notified. The second is about security, and they ensure that all the transactions of the different stakeholders that they work with are verified before they're actually let to proceed. And of course, a big one is about provenance, where it allows you to know who had the product and at what stage and for how long. So if any issue comes to be down the pipeline, it'll be easy to trace the issue and hold a certain body or a certain party responsible. So it makes the process a lot more seamless. And perhaps the most important one is about the smart contracts and the fact that it allows the workflow to be more efficient, because you can have automated orders and automated payments, and it makes the process a lot more seamless. So after they agree on a certain, they have an agreement based on how often they'll be having the orders and how much will be paid at each point. It will be processed automatically, which makes it a lot more seamless, and it prevents the issues whereby a middle person ends up overcharging or ends up putting, bad products into the market. And maybe just to give a bit of context, they deploy their smart contracts on Tomo chain as well as Quorum blockchain. And this was mainly in line with the efforts of scalability, because we know most companies and most startups are very interested and keen on scalability. And they realize that by implementing the smart contracts on Tomo chain as well as Quorum blockchain, they'd be able to process about 2,000 to 4,000 transactions per second, which was good on their end. And in terms of the application that they actually use, or the mobile phone application that they use, which is then built, which then uses blockchain on the back end, they have two main solutions. And the first is a track and trace solution, which ensures that each product on the blockchain is actually, you're able to track the product on each stage of the blockchain. So we have the different stakeholders, mainly the manufacturers are able to know, okay, this is how my product is moving from one place to another. And then on the consumer end, they have the query application, which enables them to figure out, like, if I have this product, I can easily just scan the barcode and I'll know how it's moved from one part of the supply chain to the rest. And with those solutions, they've been able to bring about a lot of impact in their community. And on top of that, I mentioned they deal with both blockchain and AI. And I think the AI part is something that I'm really excited about, because it enables manufacturers and different players at different points of the supply chain to know what exactly they need to produce, when they need to produce it, what amount. And this just enables them and empowers them to make more data-driven decisions. And I'll give the example of Kenya, which is my country, and a situation that happened not so long ago, whereby some people had gotten the first dose of the COVID vaccine, but then after that we find that they were out of stock. So people are not able to get the second dose. So such a solution would enable manufacturers to know, okay, this is the demand in this place, this is the demand in this place. And based on that, they'll know how much they need to produce and how much they need to actually put out there. And as I mentioned, the problem of counterfeit drugs is a problem across the world. And mainly vulnerable countries are the ones that import the drugs a lot. And on doing my research, I found that in Africa, we import about 90% of the medications that we have here. However, I found that most of the solutions that are there and most of the blockchain solutions that help to track the supply chain and eradicate these medicines from the ecosystem are not really serving the African market. So I found one company that's called mPedigree, and it is somewhat trying to solve the problem. It is solving the problem, but they don't really use blockchain. So their mode of working is they usually tag the products of the manufacturers that they work with a special code. So somewhat like a scratch card for airtime, so that they ensure that the final consumer is the only one who can actually scratch it. And through that, they SMS that code to a certain toll-free number, and they're given details as to whether it's a legitimate product or it's not. But then the issue with that is it's more of a centralized system as opposed to what blockchain offers, which is more of a distributed network. So I think that's one of the questions I would have in line with what are the solutions being done to ensure that the this problem is being curbed in every part of the world. And I did further research, and I found that the IBM Research Center had launched a project like that, particularly, I think it was the Israel team, in terms of battling counterfeit products in medicines in Kenya in particular. However, I found out that the video was a 2017 video, and on looking at other articles, I've not really found information about the implementation of the project. So maybe for you, Anthony, it would be great if you could shed light on possibly how far the project has gone, maybe roadblocks that may have been you may have met on the way, and yeah, basically the steps forward to ensure that this problem is being tackled across the world.
Brilliant, Claire. Thank you so much for a fantastic introduction, and immediately some homework for me to go away and get in touch with our research team. I know the guys I'm going to go to talk to and ask that one, so I promise I'll come back to you on that. And immediately, a very interesting and challenging concept of how do you manage supply chains across borders, across countries with medicines which are physical products. They move, they're in locations, they're in warehouses, they're held at different temperatures. A huge amount of challenge around how the physical supply chain works. The value of data across that, not just how much is being used, where is it physically, but also what condition is it in. Possibly if we're starting to see adverse reactions from patients, how can we get that information passed more quickly to the manufacturer who's on the same network, as opposed to sequentially up a chain of 4 or 5 or 6 different parties, right? Where actually that information may never reach it, or there may not be an established process for being able to pass back consumer information or patient information specifically related to how it is. So really, really interesting use case. Joseph, Faith, any thoughts from yourselves on sort of challenges around implementation, or your thoughts around the particular use case?
For now, I do not have. My concern was, I had something to do with the supply chain and the use case here, but my concern would be on my educational aspect.
Got you. And we're going to come to you next, because I know you've got your own example that I'm really interested to hear more about. But I think I was really fascinated by the scratch card example, as well as how do you manage logistics and verification in a low coverage or low 3G, 4G, 5G area. And actually the scratch card example and the SMS is a really interesting alternative. Not everybody has a data connection, not everybody has a smartphone. So I think really, really interesting innovation there in terms of, once it's scratched, it's scratched. It's not a QR code. It's not a unique crypto anchor. You can create physical codes, but then the issuances of those codes and so on is challenging. I think there's still an opportunity to be able to deliver that in a decentralized way. I just love the kind of the Africa-friendly form factor on that one. So Claire, brilliant start, straight out of the blocks, no warm up. Faith, we're going to go to you next. Talk us through where are you based, where are you studied, and what's your use case, please?
All right, so good day, everybody. My name is Faith, and I studied mathematics in pure and applied mathematics in Ladoke Akintola University of Technology, Nigeria. So I'll be talking about blockchain in the educational industry, and I'll be using BitCerts as a good case study, with convexity. So prior to now, I was going to use Devery, but since it was synonymous to, or it was related to supply chain, based on even what Clare had already spoken about. So I felt they need to, go different. So while I was making my research, I made research on Devery, and I also made research on BitCerts. So, and I think I would want to talk more on BitCerts with convexity. So I think I would want to focus on that. So, so thank you. So basically what they do is they render tamper-proof documents and instantaneously verify that it's instantaneously verifiable on the blockchain. But then let's not just talk about them yet. Let's talk about a little bit on blockchain in the educational system generally. So before I then, diversify to, or, streamline it to talking about the BitCert and what BitCert offers. So basically blockchain in the educational system does a lot of things. Not just tampering with documents and all of that. You know, I mentioned earlier that I was going to talk about Devery and at the same time talk about BitCerts. Now, while I was making research on Devery, I discovered that even in blockchain, even in the educational industry in blockchain, there is still the supply chain angle, you know, where you need that for, you know, delivering of food or distributing foods to school students, you know, and all of that, which is, I mean, supply chain angle, but then still in educational industry. But then for core educational purposes, we see blockchain happening in transcript processes, you know, in formal settings. Yeah, so whereby learning context, you know, the outcomes like student achievements and certifications, you know, all of those things happening via blockchain. And we even see information on research experiences, skills being stored on the data being stored on the blockchain and all of that. So we see that on a major scale as to how blockchain can be used in the educational system, yeah, or in the educational industry. So, and for BitCerts, which will be the major core BitCerts will be the core use case or core component I'll be talking about. So BitCert is a subsidiary from Convexity. Yeah, so Convexity is a blockchain company in Nigeria, and that's their website is with convexity.com. So what they do is they offer blockchain solutions in diverse products and in diverse way. So they have for the university diploma, they have for credit certificate, you know, for loans and, you know, all of those things, medical prescriptions and all that. Now, but then I'll be streamlining mine to their educational solution, right? And the educational solution is the BitCerts, that's with Convexity. So basically what BitCert does is it renders tamper-proof documents and instantaneously verifiable on the blockchain. So basically what they do is you can create, you can accept, you can hold and share verifiable diplomas, certificates, and badges, you know, and it can be tampered with. We all know of how that works with the blockchain, you know, using Ethereum and all of those smart contract processes to ensure that it's stored in such a way that one can't go back to it to, you know, tamper with it and stuff, which I feel like we can all use. You know, when you take, especially when you're taking online courses, yeah. So when you're taking online courses like you say you go to Coursera, you go to Alison, you go to Udacity, you know, and all of these places. Imagine getting certificates from them and ensuring that you have a proper place where you can go back to verify that, oh, this certificate was given by this was given by this company. And you know, if I'm an employer and I want to verify that certificate, excuse me, I can go to knowing that it's stored on the blockchain platform. I trust it well enough to know that this is not fake. You know, it solves the problem of the document is real or is false. You know, we can protect against false or distorted certificates and make them common practice for verification. So it can be something we can use generally, not just for a certain school or a certain course. You know, it's something that we can make become a process or, you know, a practice for verification. You know, so in this age, you know, we can't really trust documents. I mean, everybody can do a whole lot of things. Yeah, in Nigeria, I see people do a whole lot of awesome stuff. Yeah, I don't want to say, you know, the opposite of that. So yeah, you see them do a lot of awesome stuff, you know, forging certificates and doing all of these things. And you see people sending that to companies, you see employers not being able to verify that. I mean, in the university system, so I recently graduated and there was a particular thing you have to do before you go for your National Youth Service Corps, like we do here in Nigeria. So what you do is you go for your clearance. So your clearance is, I spent 5 years in the university. So I spent 5 years in the university studying pure and applied mathematics. Now, all of the processes that I had to go through, which is showing them my WAEC results, you know, my JAMB results, my JAMB admission letter, my medical clearance, my sports clearance, you know, it's just a long list, you know, my library, you know, I have to clear that, you know, you keep clearing yourself from all of the things that you had to do, you know. I had two different, or about 3 different departments. You know, the faculty was asking for verified results from my WAEC. The department was asking for verified results from my WAEC. The Senate was asking for the same thing, yeah. And then I had to, you know, do them one by each for each of these guys. I had to ensure that I get a card from the WAEC guys, you know, a scratch card whereby I could verify that this is from WAEC. Now, after I did that, the school still had to do that themselves. So I mean, why do I have to? I felt like, why do I have to buy my own scratch card to show you that this is a verified WAEC result, then still go back to the school to pay for another scratch card to verify that result? I mean, that process felt like it could have been avoided. So that's why talking about, you know, this niche in blockchain education, I am also trying to emphasize the need for why it should become a practice. Yeah, why it should become like that verification process should become a practice, so we don't have to go through that challenge. I mean, this is something I experienced like 2 months ago, thereabouts. Yeah. So, you know, it's something we can look into. So educational institutions should take it to their own hands to combat, you know, the theft of diplomas and ensure that only legitimate students can earn, you know, recognition and respect for their efforts. You know, and it happens here too. It happens, I don't know if it happens outside Nigeria and stuff. You know, it happens here whereby people get to, you know, cut corners towards getting a particular certificate, and they still use that. You know, sometimes you might not verify. Imagine spending 5 years in a university, all for you to realize that your results. I mean, we had that issue with JAM. You know, we had to go for JAM regularization and all of that. JAM is like a joint admission matriculation board for Nigerians when you want to go into the university. So I even had that personal issue whereby I had to go back to the JAM office for regularization. If not, I wouldn't be able to graduate. Yeah. So imagine we remove all of those things. It costed me an extra time to go for my NYSC. That's my thing we do in Nigeria, whereby you serve the country when you're done for a year. So I was supposed to do that in July, but because I had to do my regularization, of which the JAM office said, come back August 5. I mean, that's a lot. Coming back August 5 just to do something that I could have done in the twinkle of an eye, and, you know, move on with the necessary registration and, you know, go on with my service. You know, so that is a very good case study on how this effort could be shown if we had the proper, you know, protocol and process to these things. You know, once it could just be automated and, you know, we just see it from the blockchain platform and it's verified, and everybody just goes, you know, I mean, it would have made it a lot easier. So it could offer simple and fast solution, securing student diplomas on Ethereum blockchain, for example, and making them irreversible and immediately verifiable. Yeah, so as seen below. So if it was immediately verifiable, I wouldn't have gone through that process, you know. So that's what BitCerts, for example, is trying to, you know, show us, and that's what they are trying to. That's basically the major thing the BitCerts solution is providing. So it's providing us with that. Now it's a very simple solution. It's straightforward. It's something we all can understand, you know. That's why I wouldn't be dwelling so much on it. But prior to them, you know, we could see the likes of University of Nicosia. You know, University of Nicosia were actually the first university in about, I think, 2016, thereabouts. You know, they were the first university to start this verifying documents via the blockchain platform. Yeah, so now they did most of their massive open online courses, their mock platforms. You know, it was all on the blockchain, so it was very easy for you to get your badge, get your certifications and all of that. So they ensured that their mock platforms were on the blockchain platform. But then that is a very good use case to BitCert and what BitCert has been able to do. But while making my research, you know, I discovered that there is much to how we can explore blockchain in the educational niche. And luckily, I run a startup in my school, that's cyclebreeze.com. So we run a research and technological development startup. And we were once working on a project there STER, which is a project we're working on for the educational system. Now we discovered that as much as we are seeing, people build products on the educational system and you see them taking a niche, but you see a company like Google, where they're using bonding formula to ensure that we have Google Meet, Google Drive, Google Mail and all of those things. So imagine Convexity having BitCerts, looking into other platforms that one could use blockchain on, like formative education, like learning activities, design and implementation, keeping track of
Faith, we might have lost you midway through here. I don't know whether we've had a little bit of a downage of Wi-Fi, but I mean, firstly, thank you very much for bringing what is a very personal story with some really interesting examples to this. I think the digital credential space is
a record of the whole learning process.
Welcome back. We're good. I mean, firstly, huge shout to you for a really personal, really interesting example. I think the space of digital credentials, verifiable credentials, self-sovereign identity has just proliferated over the last 18 months and before. Medical credentials, student credentials, digital identity, learning. The examples you gave were brilliant. You're also seeing the likes of Accredify in Singapore. IBM's got its own learning credentials network in the US that's doing similar. I think one of the challenges we're seeing is how do we join the dots here? Right? What we're seeing is sort of small networks of parties, the issuer in terms of the universities, the holder in terms of the students, then the verifiers, which can be almost anybody, employers, could be other academic institutions, lots of different organizations. How do we make sure that there's a wide enough network that those credentials are being accepted by all? Right. So I think we're still at the early stages of figuring out how this plays out. But the good news is, we're seeing it in we're seeing the examples of it being possible, it being used in different contexts, exams, final exams, credentials where you're doing multiple units to be able to add up to a single one. So you're seeing fungible tokens, or sorry, non-fungible tokens related to education. Really, really great example. I'm also noticing Ridwan's joined us, so shout to you, Ridwan. Thanks for making it in partway through. We're going to come to you in a little while, but first I want to bring Joseph in. Joseph, thanks for waiting patiently. Which is the example you're going to take us through, and where are you based, and where did you study?
All right, thank you very much. I'm Joseph. I live in Lagos, Nigeria, studied from the University of Lagos. And I will be walking through the blockchain use cases and supply chain management. Although Faith has highlighted the points which I would like to start from, which he said, supply chain in food for schools. And definitely the case study I'll be using is a Walmart. But before then, I would like to dive into the supply chain management use case by blockchain. Now, every enterprise blockchain should have, under the supply chain management system, should have these three key bullet points, which include the traceability, the transparency, and the tradability. Now, traceability in the sense that they want their products to at least to be recalled, that you can actually get it from the origin, where they came from, where is this particular food item from, or where it's being farmed and stuff like that. Also, it also helps to reduce that's counterfeit and also fraud. Under traceability, under the transparency, rather, we talked of easy tracking. We want to know where this particular item is gotten from, like through the basic players, which include the manufacturers, the farmer, the processors, and also the retailer. And also, still on traceability, transparency, we have the regulatory compliances and the reporting and documentations. Now, all these things are what the consumer rather want to see in what they are consuming, or want to see in what they are actually getting from the store. Then tradability talks about the ownership, who is the owner of this particular farmland, or the license, or is this person licensed to do this kind of farming and or whatnot. Now, my case study is on Walmart, which is a big company. I'll just talk a little about Walmart, which is a multinational retailing corporation that operates, that an American multinational company that operates basically in the US and other parts of the world as well. And their core value or their core goal is basically to help people to save money, which is quite interesting. I have a little bit of a background with Walmart, back to the history of some thing. All right, so to save money and to help people live better. Now, if based on research, they have about 200 million consumers every week that access about 11,000 stores of the Walmart different stores, and to get the food products. And their revenue is roughly about 500 billion, which is quite large. Now, according to a research by Gartner, it said by 2030, by 2023. 30% of the manufacturing company with about 5 billion in revenue will project or leverage the use of technology like blockchain for their supply chain management and adoption, which is quite very interesting why I actually picked this particular project. Now, to start with, we will talk about why the need, why blockchain, why this blockchain at this particular moment. Now, different from like different case study which we have, like the proof of work in Bitcoin and other projects. Now, they came out with these analogies like, okay, now there was an outbreak of foodborne disease which happened, and it takes days, it takes days and time to trace where this particular disease or this illness is originated. Basically, it's from the source. Now, which brings us back to traceability on the supply chain. Not only this, if I should play back to Africa, according to the World Health Organization, foodborne hazards are responsible for over hundreds of thousands of deaths in Africa and 90 million illness in Africa every year, and which has affected children from the age of under 5 years. Now, this is a key problem why blockchain should be bringing into this picture, or why supply chain should have something traceable and transparent. Now, I was just going to talk a little on how the Walmart actually work. Walmart work using blockchain technology definitely by decentralizing their food supply ecosystem. Now, it is a good call for Walmart to take up this responsibility back in 2016, where they applied this solution, making use of two use cases using the proof of concept. Now, proof of concept in the sense that they want to test this technology on real life use cases. They want to see how this is going to play out. They want to see if situation like foodborne disease should happen, and we should be able to trace it back at a very minimum time and with a good accuracy. And that's when Walmart came in partnership with the IBM PharmaLedger, which is the framework, which is the blockchain framework for implementing this particular solution. Now, a little on the PharmaLedger Fabric blockchain. Now, it is a project hosted on the Linus Foundation with the intention to bring out further development of applications or solutions with their smart contract and their blockchain technology. The smart contract being the chain code, which is more like smart contract we have in the Ethereum platform and Waterfall. And currently, in this process, they actually have these two use cases which they actually did consider. One with the traceability of their mangroves in the US, and also the traceability of pork meat in China, their store in China. So they came out with this solution and discovered that it is even more safer and even faster to run a good traceable supply chain of mangroves in the US within a couple of minutes, like in less than 2.2 seconds, we can trace back to say, oh wow, this mangrove is from this particular farm, and pass through these processes. Why? Because blockchain consists of a lot of nodes, and this node could represent the big players in the supply chain, which include the manufacturer, the processors. They can be the node. And also the technology used as well was a permissioned blockchain technology, whereby it's not fully public as we have in other blockchain like the Ethereum or the Bitcoin. It is permission. Simply means that those people that particularly involved in these processes are the nodes. They represent the node, represent the big stakeholders in this game. So they keep track on everything and also make sure that nothing is being tampered with. Although, of course, we know the technology can be tampered, but we just want to make it very more effective and straightforward. And currently, Walmart is tracking about 25 food items with the HyperLedger protocol, which include from mangoes, strawberries, leafy greens, then with meat, the chicken, the pork, dairy items, yogurt, the milk, and also multi-ingredient products, which include the food, the baby food, which is very key. We ought to know how this food are being gotten from, where it's coming from, and where it's actually going. Now, what really interests me about this project was the IBM Food Trust, the technology, the blockchain technology Walmart came into, and how they were able to establish this and make it very open. Now, the IBM Food Trust, a little I can talk about it, is the first blockchain food safety solution that allows transaction partners to confidently and securely share food information, creating a more transparent and trustworthy global food supply chain. Now, this is very, very key. Like I became very interested with this particular project based on the food trust concept. So it doesn't just talk about just the Walmart, which is a leading supply chain company, but also companies like Nestle and the rest. And under the food trust concept, there are these key features like the supply chain efficiency, the brand trust, the food safety, sustainability, food freshness, food fraud, and food waste. Now, if we recall, for example, the food waste per se. Now, in Nigeria, like back home here, I know we do record food waste due to poor supply chain management, which it could be as a result of the transportation of this particular food product from the farmland to where they get good traction and where it is properly consumed. They used to get this food shortage and also food wastage along the line. So if solutions like blockchain can be fully implemented, whereby investors who has investment or stake on this particular supply chain can be able to come in to see, oh, where is this particular product at this point in time, and also try to balance up things and put more resources on how to get this food supply from that manufacturer straight to the consumer to bring a better food consumption. And one thing I'm skeptical a little about this project, and I believe which you can also throw more light, is the stand in Africa, which I've said we have food. It's something like, for example, onion supply. Onions come from the northern Nigeria to the southern Nigeria. And most times, not basically most times, some of this food don't get their actual percentage when they get to the consumer end, which is the southern Nigeria. So what is African stand in this global change? Blockchain is a good solution. We've seen use cases and we've seen good development with the aspect of the food trust development from the IBM. And also another point I would like to also get more insight is the interoperability of this project. How can, we have this IBM Hyperledger framework, which is a permissioned, on this particular project is a permissioned blockchain with other blockchain network like the Ethereum, which are just open, and is open to everybody. How do we make them interoperability? How do we put them into action so that investors from every angle and every corner who owns or who understand the blockchain technology can come into these systems and have a say or do one or two things to boost this global change in Africa, basically. I think
Brilliant.
that's all for me. Thank you very much.
No, brilliant questions, Joseph, and thank you for a very comprehensive overview. And some of the issues there are exactly the ones that we deal with every day in terms of how do we scale the network, how do we make sure that it's accessible to as many as possible, how can you digitize a supply chain that may have challenges around digitization. We had the same with Claire's example. It's not always possible that you've got fully digitized inventory and delivery systems across everybody in a supply chain, and that's going to make some of that traceability harder to do. Not impossible, but in some cases where there's value in those transformations, it's not necessarily the farmers or the logistic companies themselves that have to do all of the investment in the technology advancement. You might see that actually some of the manufacturers or the brands or the retailers will actually help to invest to improve the digitization and quality of the systems of their suppliers or of their supply chain, because actually ultimately they benefit. It costs them less to transact. They've got greater traceability and transparency. You've got another challenge, which actually is a lot of supply chains are many to many. It's not that you have a unique relationship between Walmart and one of their mango suppliers. It might be that they supply Walmart and Costco and Kroger and a whole bunch of others. And so who's going to make those investments? Do you mutualize it? Or can you do an individual project yourself because the business case makes sense? Super interesting and challenging one. Also then the kind of permission versus permissionless, or how to connect permissioned and permissionless. In some of these networks, typically because you want to use smart contracts or you want to use automation, it's important for some of these businesses to know who is on the network, who are the parties. So being able to do know your client or know your customer on a permissionless network is sometimes a little bit at odds with what's required by the businesses. Hence, you see some of these private networks spinning up. But there's a whole bunch more we could talk on this one, and happy to take some of those questions offline and come back with a few specific comments. I know Claire's already given me some homework on this one, so shout to you for that. And I also noticed Ridwan joined us midway through. You managed to find a place, some internet and some power. So thank you very much for jumping in. We've got a few minutes. So Ridwan, tell us, where are you? Where are you based? Where are you studying? And what's your example, please?
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, can you hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you. Crack on.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Ridwan. My friends call me Binary. I am a computer science student from Ahmadu Bello University here in Nigeria. I'm a Nigerian. And on this topic, on this podcast session, I'll be talking about eVoting. How can we use blockchain in governance? How can we bring technology as a tool to make lives better, to provide solutions? In Nigeria here, we still go through the old-fashioned way of voting. We go to a polling center, we acquire our voter's card. After acquiring the voter's card, on the voting day, you go to the polling centers again, polling booths, you queue for like almost hours to cast your vote. And eventually, we still use this thumbprint, whereby the INEC officials, that's the electoral body, they come with the ballot papers, and then after the voters, they get accredited. So it's a place where you verify a particular voter. The voter must have registered earlier with the commission before. So when you get there, you get verified. So once you are verified, you then proceed to vote. So how do you vote? You vote by using your thumbprint. So you place your thumbprint on the ballot paper, and then you put the ballot paper inside the container or something. So this it is no longer news that this method, this process is not transparent in any way. I mean, the officials come to a polling unit after we've all voted. They take back the container to wherever it is they take it to, and then the following day or probably 3 days later we hear results. Even we, like, there are scenarios where even we at polling centers, we know the votes that were casted were not up to the number of votes that we later see in the result. I mean, how can you tell me for my own polling units, I know everybody that came to vote, the vote shouldn't be more than, let's say, 400, but eventually when they release the results, my year 1,000 or 2,000. So these are challenges. The electoral process in Nigeria is not transparent in any way. I'm sorry, I'm talking with respect to Nigeria because I'm a Nigerian. I don't know what's happening in Ghana or thereabouts. So I and my friends, a couple of my friends, we worked on a solution. It was in 2019. That has to do with e-voting, how we can use blockchain to make our voting better. How can you ensure that, okay, my vote gets counted, who I voted for actually receives the vote, and then eventually how transparent is the result? Because these are actually very important, because voting is a key part of governance. that's how we elect our leaders. If I voted for Anthony here, I don't want to see Joseph tomorrow because I know I voted for Anthony. So how do I verify that my vote for Anthony actually counts? And eventually, Anthony actually gets the votes because there are rumors. In fact, there are rumors, and we know actually they are true. But then again, whatever it is, you can't verify. It's actually a rumor. There are rumors that okay, I vote for a particular party. Eventually, the vote gets casted for another party. So, in this case, I during my research, I've been able to come across a website that does something similar. We have a prototype already. It was we were in attendance in National Blockchain Hackathon held in Abuja, that's Nigeria's capital. We presented the prototype, I and my friends, how we can a mini e-voting system that allows one particular user to vote for one candidate. You can't vote for multiple candidates, and multiple candidates cannot receive your vote. So you can only vote for one person. Once you vote for one person, you sign in with your credentials. Once you vote offline, and then it takes that particular candidate offline also. So it means you can't vote for that person again. So and then the result is not actually the result is void of human interference. Everything is done by by the system. So it has nothing to do with human interference at all. So these are challenges, these are problems, these are issues that using blockchain as a tool to make governance better could have solved. And let me say we solve. So when I checked online, I found out Ballot Chain. Ballot Chain is also doing something similar. They use Ethereum to build their own network. So it's an online voting system where voters come and vote for their candidate. How they do it, the candidate already registers with Ballot Chain. So when voters come, they get to deposit a certain amount of tokens in crypto on their into their candidates wallet. So if I and Anthony, let's say for say now are candidates, so when voters come, they come and then they deposit tokens in our own wallet. So eventually the user, or let me say the candidate that has the highest number of, let's say, cryptos in his or her wallet wins. So that one it is actually open, it is clean, it is visible, everybody can see it, and it can't be changed. You can't go and beg for somebody to come and vote for you. It's not possible. And then eventually, if you get 10, let's say for instance 10 coins in your wallet, you can't you can't you can't increase it to like 20 coins. It's not possible. So I only have 5 minutes, like Anthony said. So I won't like to take much of our time. E-voting is actually something, and recently the federal what's it called government in Nigeria, they recently passed a bill on e-voting. I think it's actually in the second stage. They want to now transmit electoral results through the internet. Although I think they're still in the second stage, the senators are still working on it. But I believe this is actually, let's say, a first stage, or let me say a first step in actually bringing and actualizing e-voting in Nigeria. So at least we can have transparent, safe, and what's it called? Secured elections. So I don't know if I'm able to do justice to that topic.
You did a brilliant job, and in a short amount of time, I really appreciate it. And it's actually having the context of how voting is done today, but also seeing that government is actively assessing or progressing moves towards e-voting, I think is hugely positive. There's definitely some challenges around digitization of voting, blockchain or not, in terms of how do we make sure that we've got proof that individuals are who they say they are when they are voting. Level of digitization in certain countries as to whether that's equitable for enough of society, or whether we can have a hybrid system where you've got a non-digital system for those who are less digitally capable and a digital system for others. It might be that we see a patchwork for a little while, but it's interesting. This is the second group of students who've brought up voting as a particular priority for themselves. So thank you so much for sharing that example. And thank you, Joseph, Claire, and also I think he's dropped off, but Faith was here earlier. And so thank you, Faith, also for your contribution. It's been a hugely insightful and interesting journey into how to work, or how to think about technology in Africa. I know we've had a very limited amount of time, but thank you so much, guys, for your contribution. I promise to get back to you on the homework you've given me, and good luck with your continued studies. thank you for all the hard work you've put into preparing for today, and stay safe out there.
Thank you. Thank you so much.